everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I want to say a very big thank you to all of my subscribers. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe, like my videos and share my videos. If you're actually having any problem regarding sewing, please don't hesitate to just drop a comment down at the comment section. I'm very quick and fast to reply to any of your sewing problems. Like I said, if you have not subscribed, please subscribe, like this video. If you find it helpful, like it and share it. Actually, today I'm going to be cutting a simple straight pencil gown for you. It's a simple pencil gown, a knee length pencil gown. This illustration, I'm going to be making it so easy that even a beginner, if you have not even if you don't even have any idea about sewing, as you watch this illustration, I tell you that you just go out there, get a fabric, follow it step by step, and you'll be able to make a dress like this in no time. This is just a simple pencil dress. Like I said, pencil gown. You can wear it to church, you can wear it to functions, you can wear it to offices, you can use it as a corporate, you can use it as a traditional. So that's what I'm just going to be cutting for you today. And here I have this is actually leftover fabric though. But for this kind of gown, you can actually make use of 2 yards of fabric. You can make use of 2 yards of fabric. So as you can see, I folded my fabrics into two. This is the back piece, and then this is the front piece. So for when cutting a pencil gown, what actually determines your fold is actually the bigger part of your measurement. And for this illustration, actually the bigger part of the measurement, which is the biggest part of this measurement, is actually the hip part. So that's what I'm going to be using to cut this dress. This dress actually is for a teenager. So that's what I'm cutting. So the biggest part of her measurement is actually 32 inches, which is her hip. Her hip is actually 32 inches. So when you divide 32 into 4 parts, you actually have 8 inches. So 8 inches, you can decide to add 3 inches or 4 inches to it. So when you say 8 plus 4 inches, you have 12 inches. So you know that you'll be folding your fabrics at 12 inches. That's the front piece. Then the back part, you can add 1 inch as your zipper allowance. As you can see, the back part is bigger than the front part. So that's the essence of this measurement. So the next thing I'm going to be inserting now, I'm going to be inserting the measurement into it. First of all, the first part that I'm going to be inserting now is actually the shoulder measurement. Always measure the shoulder. Like I always say in most of my illustration, measure the shoulder from one end to another. Measure. So for the shoulder for this is actually 14 inches. So when you divide 14 into 2, what I was saying into 2, you can see the fabric is into 2. We have 1 and 2. So when you divide 14 into 2, you actually have 7 inches. So you take your tape like this and start it from this upper part. You measure 7 inches. This is 7 inches. This is actually 7 inches. And then I'll add 2 inches as my allowance. You can decide to use 1 inch as your allowance. You can decide to add 1 inch as allowance. So this is the shoulder measurement. Now this is 7, and then this is 1.5 inch. As you can add 1.5, you can use 1, but I'm actually using 2. So and then you take your tape from the allowance of the shoulder measurement. You measure 8 inches. Like I told you, she's not an adult, so I'll be using 8 inches for her armhole. 8 inches. This is 8 inches for her armhole. And then you take like this. You can actually use your ruler, especially for beginners, that your hand, since your hand is not really straight, you don't actually know how to negotiate your curve, you use a ruler. And then if you have French curve, you can always use your French curve and then make an arc like this on it. You can make an arc. This is now the armhole. You can make an arc on it like this. You can make an arc on this. Then from below of your shoulder measurement, you measure the bust. The bust for this dress is actually 32 inches. Her bust is 32. So 32, when you divide 32 into 4, 32, initially the shoulder was divided into 2, but the bust measurement you divide into 4. 32, when you divide 32 into 4, you have 8 inches. So this is my 8 inches. This is 8 inches. I'll just bring it just below the armhole. This is 8 inches, and then I'll use another 2 inches as my allowance. I'll just measure it like this, and then curve, and then make a curve, a slant like this, just from the edge of the armhole, and then bring it down to the point here, and then take it. Then for this, for beginners, most times I remember the first time I actually started sewing, the first dress like this, a pencil gown that I actually made, the hip was actually too down. The hip was coming towards my knee part, because actually I didn't know how to gauge it. So but for this now, this illustration, I'm going to be teaching you how to know where to insert your hip. For the hip measurement, you actually measure, most times just make sure you measure the person from the shoulder to the waist, measure the shoulder to the waist. Always measure the shoulder to the waist. When you get to the waist, then you now add like 8 inches or 9 inches. So that's between the waist and the hip is usually between 8 and 9 inches. So for this her shoulder is actually 18 inches because she's a little bit tall. It's 18 inches. So 18 inches like this. So I'll now rule 18 inches. This is 18 inches. And then between these 18 inches, I'll measure 9 inches. So this is the hip part. This is the hip part. Then this side, this is the tummy part. This is the tummy part. So when you measure from here to here, from here to here, that's this part. So that's the tummy part. And always make sure you measure the stomach. Always make sure you measure the stomach. And for this, the stomach is actually 28 inches. So when you divide 28 into 4, you actually divide 28 into 4. Every other part apart from the shoulder is divided into 4. When you divide 28 into 4, you have 7 inches. So you take it like this, and then this is my 7 inches. That's for the stomach part. This is my 7 inches, and then I'll add another 2 inches as my allowance. So this is my allowance here. So I'll just take my line like this from this part and then join it. I'll connect. You can use a ruler. I'll just connect like this. So this is the part. This is the upper part of your bodies. This part is your bodies. This is the top, like I told you. This is the tummy part. Then the next thing I'm going to be doing now is the hip measurement. Like I told you before, I said the hip is actually 32 inches. So when you divide 32 into 4, you have 8 inches. So I'll take my tape like this, and then this is my 8 inches. For the hip, I'm actually going to be using 3 inches as my allowance. But my fabric, since the fabric is not much, I'll just make it 2.5 inches. So now the next thing I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be doing the hip curve. The hip curve. So from here, from this point like this, I'll just take a curve like this and just make a slant like this. You can see like this, and then bring my hand out. This is actually a free hand because I'm not using my sewing curves. So I just make a curve like this. You can see, just make an arc curve like this. Just make the arc curve like this. You can see the arc curve of the hip. So the next thing you are going to be inserting now is the knee. Like I said, always measure. You measure from the shoulder to the waist, from the waist to the knee. So for this, her knee measurement is actually 33 inches. From her shoulder to her knee is actually 33. So I'll just make my curve like this. Like I said, like I normally say in most of my videos, you can actually measure the knee. You can actually measure the knee part. When measuring her, you can actually measure the knee and then tell her to take a step for you to know how wide the knee part is going to be. You can actually measure. So for this, I'm going to be using 7 inches, which is 28. So that's what I'm going to be using for the knee measurement. So I'll add for this part, I'll add 1.5 inch as my allowance. I'm not going to be using up to 2 inches. So you can see the curve. The curve will just come down like this. You can see it. The curve will just come down like this and then settle here. Then the next part, the remaining part is going to be the down. It's going to be the down part. Always measure the down part of your dress. Always measure the down part. So you can always measure. So the next thing I'm going to be doing now, for the down part, I'm still going to be maintaining my 32 inches, which is 8 inches. So I'll just add, because I want it, like I told you, I said I want a pencil gown. So I'll just add 1 inch to it as my allowance, and then use my ruler like this, and then connect, and then just bring it down, straight down like this. So you can see this is my gown. This is my pencil gown. You can see the shape of the pencil gown is already out already. So I'm going to be cutting now. I just take my scissors like this and then cut. Like I always say, cut outside the lines. Like for this part between the shoulder and the waist, like you know, for this part I use 17, but basically for adults it's usually 19 inches. For full adult it's usually 19 inches. And if you are doing for an adult, the hip measurement, that's between the waist and the hip, is usually use between 9 and 10. This because, like I said, it's for a teenager. That's why I used 8. That was why I used between 8 and 9. But if you are making for an adult, the basic for an adult for the torso is usually 19 inches. Well, except for people that are very tall. Taller people, theirs is usually 20. Then with that you now use 10 inches. That's between the waist and 10 inches. That's where you insert your hip measurement. So this is this. Then for the neck measurement, I'm just going to be doing a simple round neck. That's what I'm going to be doing for this illustration. So for the neck measurement, I'll just take my tape like this and then measure 3 inches. I don't want the neck to be open. I just want a normal moderate neck. So this is 3 inches. This is 3 inches for the neck. Then I'll take my tape. If you notice, I'm starting all of my measurement from here because this part I'm going to be cutting it off. I'm using this extra as 1 inches as my sewing allowance for the top. This is what I'm using. So I'll just take it like this and then measure 4 inches. I'm sorry, before I started I forgot to tell you the full length of the gown. The full length of the gown is actually, because I thought the full length of the gown is actually 43 inches. This is actually the full length of the gown. It's actually 43 inches. So I'm using this as my allowance. This remaining 2.5 inch here. That was why I actually forgot to tell you. I just assumed that the full length was already, since I already had the cloth laid out. So always measure how long you actually want the dress to be measured, and then add like between 2 and 3 inches as your sewing allowance. That's for the part that you'll be using to fold the down and then sew the up part. For most times for the upper part, I normally leave 1 inch up here before I actually start measurement. That was what I was telling you. I'm actually leaving this part because this is the part I'm going to be using as my shoulder sewing. That's to my seam allowance for the shoulder. So from here, after the 3 inches width and then the length of the neck, like I normally say in most of my videos, you can actually measure how deep you want the neck measurement to be. How deep? Just put your tape like this on your shoulder and then measure. For this, I'm actually going to be using 5 inches because I don't want it to be too deep. I'll use 5 inches, so I'll just measure 5 like this and then make a straight line like this. Since it's a round neck, so just make a straight line like this and then use my French curve. If you don't have a French curve, you can always improvise. Just use my French curve like this and then make a curve like this. So that's for the neck. So for the back part of the neck, the back part is actually going to be higher. So what you do, you just take your tape like this and then maintain to the back and then mark for the back piece like this. You mark through. Then for the back, I'm actually going to be using 3 inches for the back. 3 or 2.5 inch. I think I should use 2.5 inch. So this is my 2.5, and then I'll just take my curve like this and then just slant like this. So this is the back. I'm going to be cutting it. Just cut it out like this, and then the front piece, I'll cut it out the front piece like this. And then I'll be doing my shoulder slant. What is the essence of the shoulder slant? For those that don't know, the shoulder slant, this enables the shoulder to be relaxed, because if you don't use shoulder slant, when you finish sewing, you find out that the shoulder will be standing like this. So that's the essence of the shoulder slant. So most times I normally use 1 inch from here, or you can use 1/2 inch from the shoulder to do your shoulder slant, and then you slant it to the top part of the neck. You just place like this and then you slant you slant down like this to this top. When you get to this part, it's usually very narrow from the neck part, and then you just cut off, and then you cut off. So that's for the shoulder slant, and then we are good to go. So like I said, this is the full length. The full length of the dress is 42 inches. It's 42 inches, and then I added 3 inches as my allowance, and then I used from the top to the waist, I used 17 inches, and then between 17 I measured 8 inches. Between 17 I measured 8 inches. That 8 inches enabled me to know that it's in between the 8 inches. That's where I'm going to be inserting my hip measurement, and then I measure to the down from the shoulder to the knee. I measure to the knee measurement, as in to the knee. That's for a pencil gown. Then from the knee to the part where you want your gown to actually be, if it is a 3/4 pencil gown or whatever. If you want it to stop at the knee, if you actually want it to stop at the knee, if you want it above the knee, you just stop it here at this point, and then you add 1 or 2 inches as your allowance, and then you cut. So that's for a short gown, if you're actually making a very short dress. So that's how you do that. So this is how. Then for the back, and then I'll open up the back piece, and then I'll open up the back like this. And then I open up and then make a notch here for me to know that this is the part that I'm going to be, this is the zipper allowance part. And then for your dart, I'm going to be using my regular dart. And when it comes to your regular dart, in inserting the dart, if you actually, since you are going to be inserting regular dart, I'm not going to be cutting, I'll just insert regular dart. What you do, you come to, which is regular waist dart, you come to this waist part, and then you measure 4 inch. That's for an adult. You measure 4 inch. Like I told you, she's a teenager, so I'll be using 3.5. You just measure like this, 3.5 from here, and then you draw, and then you take your tape from those points like this. Measure 8 inches from here. When you measure 8 inches, you take 4, which is the middle, and then place here like this. You place the 4 in the middle. Just take 8 inches, place 4, and then you roll like this. Then you insert your dart. You just hold. You hold between here and here, like I told you, for you to know how to insert your waist dart. Come to this point here, and then place 8. You divide 8 into 2, which is 4. You place your 4 inches here, and then you mark here, and then you mark here. So you see the dart is running in between the waist and the hip. So, and then you sew from here, from inside, you sew like this. So that gives it. But if you are using fabrics like scuba, you can decide to just make it tight, and then don't insert any dart to it. So that's it. So the next thing I'm going to be cutting the sleeve. My fabric is almost done. I'm going to be cutting the sleeve. So I'm just going to be using cutting regular round sleeve. That's what I'm actually going to be cutting. So I'll fold my fabrics like this into 4. I'll fold my fabrics like this into 4 for my regular dart. I'll fold into 4, and then since I'm going to be pleating the sleeve, so I'm going to be making it bigger. Like I told you, something like a balloon sleeve. So I'm just going to be making an arc like this. I'll make a big arc. I'll just make a big arc like this, big round arc, because I'm actually going to be pleating. So I'll make a big arc, and then the arc is like 11 inches wide arc, and then the length of the sleeve, is actually 12 inch. I'll be using 12 inch, and then use extra 1 inch as my allowance, so that's 13. And then the next thing I'm going to be doing, like I told you, I said is a puff sleeve. So the width and the width is not, the measurement of the width is not really necessary. Depending how big, that will determine how the bigger it is, the puffer it becomes. So that will determine. So since it's a puff sleeve, I'll just take my tape like this and use the entire part of my of my fabric, so which is 10 inch. So I'll just make a line like this here to 10 inch and then curve it out like this. So this entire part now, this entire part, that's going to be the side. I'm going to be pleating it to fit into my armhole. So I'll just take my tape like this and then cut out like this. My scissors, sorry, and then cut out like this. So this is how you cut your round puff sleeve. You can see it is round. This is how you cut it. So this whole part, I'm actually going to be pleating this part, and then I'll use a rubber band for this down part. Then at the end you get a puff. If you want to know how to cut a puff sleeve, you can watch other of my videos. So thank you so much. I've come to the end of this illustration. If you actually find this illustration useful, please don't hesitate to comment, like the video, share the video. Tell me, like I said, if you're having any problem regarding sewing. So thank you so much for watching. See you in my next video. Bye bye.